Good evening, Americans, and welcome to The Ed Show, live from Washington, D.C. Let's get to work. Tonight,
I will be running, in a sense, as an independent Democrat. We're in this race to win.
plus,
The timeline and the evidence and the information that we have developed in this story does not match.
We know what happened. We know what happened. We don't need a report.
We're sick and tired. Sick and tired of the foolishness.
good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. It's an important day here on The Ed Show. A gentleman who has appeared on this program quite often joins us tonight, backing up a big announcement. Earlier today, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders officially announced that he will run as a Democrat for the President of the United States. This makes Senator Sanders the first Democratic challenger to Hillary Clinton. Many will view this as a good day for democracy. And the backdrop of all of this today is activism in numerous cities across America. You're looking live at a march in Philadelphia today. After marches and protests in New York City last night, this seems to have taken on a life of its own. There will be marches later on today in Baltimore, but this is the scene in Philadelphia. And we start our interview tonight with Senator Sanders on this topic. Senator, good to have you with us tonight.
Great to be with you.
Congratulations on this announcement. Certainly it is a big challenge for you, but I want to go right to today's news, Senator. You're now President of the United States. You see what's unfolding on American streets. What's the problem as you see it? What's the solution?
Well, the problem is that for many years, police brutality and the killing of innocent people has not been dealt with. That's a fact. The good news, Ed, is that the American people, not just the African-American community, are saying enough is enough. You can't hold people in custody and suddenly find out that they're dead. You can't shoot people in the back. You know, in South Carolina, a conservative southern state, a police officer was charged with murder. I'm a former mayor. I know that being a cop is not an easy job. But when police officers misbehave, they have got to be held accountable. The other good news is that all over this country, when people are beginning to stand up and say enough is enough, change is taking about. You asked me what I would do as president. Number one, we would fight hard for police reform, for body cameras, for the training that police officers need to know how to treat people who are in captivity with respect. But the underlying issue, in terms of Freddie Gray's community, as I understand it, do you know what the unemployment rate there is?
It's extremely high.
It's over
higher there, and they've lost so many manufacturing jobs over the last 15 years. The city, the community has not felt a way or found a way to deal with it.
And you know, you can have every police officer in America being a Harvard Law School graduate, and you're not going to address this issue unless we give people some hope, unless we give people some opportunity. That means jobs, that means education. You can't turn your back on neglected parts of America.
So what would you do if you're president when it comes to revitalizing communities like this that are having socioeconomic problems?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've already introduced legislation. For a start, we would invest $1 trillion in our infrastructure, creating 13 million new jobs, rebuilding our roads and bridges and water systems and wastewater plants. That would create a whole lot of jobs. I introduced with Congressman John Conyers of Michigan a $5.5 billion job training and job creating program for young people. Youth unemployment in America is 17%. African-American youth unemployment is totally off the charts. We've got to put young people to work. We've got to give them an education rather than putting them in jail.
What did you think of the riots the other night? I want to know, I mean, has the social structure gotten to the point where this is the only outlet these people had at that particular time? I've heard of a lot of officials say, well, this is in Baltimore. You know, they were peaceful for a week until the cameras showed up. But it did happen. The riots did happen. And it was in Baltimore. So what's the solution?
This is what I think. I think there is a massive amount of anger and discontent. And I think it has more than just what happened to Freddie Gray. I think it is people are saying, how come we are living in the richest country in the history of the world? Our kids can't go to college. We don't have child care for our kids. We don't have any jobs. I think that's significantly what it's about.
All right, Senator, why are you running? Why are you doing this?
I'll tell you why I'm doing it. And I feel, you know, it's my first day out there and I'm feeling good about it. This country today, Ed, faces more crises than we have faced since the Great Depression. And if you throw in climate change, which the scientists are telling us is the major global crisis that we face, it's probably worse off than we were in the Great Depression. I don't see people talking about this issue. I don't see politicians working on this issue. And I think it's time that we addressed it. And getting back to your point, the only way that change takes place, in my view, is when millions of people stand up and say, enough is enough. And it's not just with police brutality. Enough is enough when the great middle class of this country is disappearing. How does it happen that we have more technology and increased productivity and people are working longer hours for low wages and we have more people living in poverty than almost any time in the history of America? How does that happen? How does it happen that 99% of all new income in this country goes to the top 1%? How does it happen that the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%? These are the central issues facing this country. And then on top of that, as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we are at a moment where billionaires are about to buy the United States government and undermine American democracy.
So why would you be a better president, a better nominee than Hillary Clinton?
Well, I'm going to let Hillary Clinton speak for herself.
Well, let's talk about how she's handled a big issue, and that is trade. Today, her communications team released an excerpt from her book saying that she stands with Elizabeth Warren when it comes to trade and did an excerpt. I think the American people are looking more for a direct answer, which you have been very direct on this. You are against Trade Promotional Authority and you are against the TPP because that's the TPA would lead to a bad trade
Absolutely.
deal.
Look, Ed.
So where do you stand on this? And right after President Obama, after the midterms took place and the Republicans took over the Senate, this is the first thing that Mitch McConnell talked about the day after press conference, saying that there's areas that they can work on with the president. One of them is trade. That was supposed to be a slam dunk. We're now almost at May 1st, and they don't have the votes in the House. Does that give you any confidence that the grassroots run can help you?
I have been going around the country. I've been talking about the trade issue. I don't have to talk about it. People increasingly know about it, and they are saying, look, NAFTA was a disaster. CAFTA was a disaster. Permanent normal trade relations with China was a disaster. Why do we want to continue down a path where the previous agreements have led to the loss of millions of decent paying jobs? So if you're asking me, should the American worker be forced to compete against somebody in Vietnam who has a minimum wage of 56 cents an hour? You know what the answer is? No. We've got to demand that corporate America start reinvesting in the United States of America, not China. It is a huge issue. I voted against all of these agreements. I will help lead the opposition against the TPP.
What about the money? Can you raise enough money to run a competitive campaign?
One of the hesitancies I had about going forward was just that. Clearly, I'm not going to have anywhere near the same amount of money as the other candidates who are going to be probably raising over $1 billion. But you know what? I think that we can raise a lot of small donations today. We opened up our website. We announced our candidacy, BernieSanders.com. I believe in the first few hours we've raised already $500,000. So I think there is a lot of potential out there from people who say, Bernie, I can't give you $1 million, can't give you $1,000, I can give you $50. I think we can raise the money we need to run a strong campaign. So
to run a campaign, so there's an admission here that you certainly won't have the television presence that the Hillary Clinton's campaign will have. And I have to keep bringing up Hillary Clinton because she's the only one in the race besides you. And it might turn out to be that's just it. So what do you think it takes to run a competitive campaign to organize?
I'll tell you what it takes. What it requires is, and what I have always done in Vermont, is run strong grassroots campaigns. You know what? Last campaign that I ran, I didn't put a nickel, not a nickel on TV ads. We put all of our money into grassroots organizing. I got 71% of the vote. So I think what we have to do is go out there, get good organizers, build a strong volunteer base, work with the labor movement, work with the environmental community, work with the women's community, and mobilize people in all across this country to stand up and fight back to the billionaire class.
Do you expect the support of labor?
I think we will have certainly some labor support, absolutely.
Some?
It's hard to say at this point. I have talked to some of the unions. Some of them are sympathetic. Some of them may not be. We will see.
But they're all against the TPP?
Without exception.
All of them?
Every single union.
This is their issue?
Rich Trumka, the president of the AFL-CIO, recently reported and said again, this is a key issue for the AFL-CIO.
How would President Bernie Sanders be different from President Obama?
I'll tell you. First of all, I have a lot of respect for President Obama. He's a friend. I have disagreed with him on tax policy. I was on the floor of the Senate a few years ago for 8.5 hours arguing that he should not continue some of Bush's tax breaks for the rich. And obviously, we have strong disagreements on the TPP. Where I think the president has made his biggest mistake is that after his historic and brilliant 2008 presidential campaign, in which he rallied the American people, brought young people into the political process, what he did after he was elected is kind of say, hey, thanks a lot, I appreciate it, you're gone, and now I'm going to sit down and argue and try to negotiate with John Boehner or with John Boehner. I think that was a terrible mistake, because here's the truth, Ed, and I'm the only candidate maybe who will ever say this. No president, not the smartest, best human being in the world, can do it alone. You cannot take on the power that is in Washington, the billionaires and their lobbyists, the military-industrial complex, all of this money and power. You can't do it. You need a mass movement of Americans who are looking in Congress and who say directly, if you don't make college education affordable, you're out of here, because we know what's going on. If you don't end these huge tax breaks for the rich, you are out of here. So what we have got to do, and I call it a political revolution, is raise political consciousness in this country, make people aware of what's going on in Washington, the importance of politics, get them involved in the political process, and have them stand up to the big money interests who today have so much power.
If you're president of the United States, what would be your policy in dealing with ISIS?
This is what I think. ISIS is obviously a barbaric organization that has to be defeated. But I will do everything that I can to prevent the United States getting involved in another ground war in that country. 2 wars is enough.
Can they be defeated without a ground war?
No, but I think the people who have to wage the ground war are not troops from the United States of America. You have Saudi Arabia sitting right in that area, which has, nobody knows this, the 3rd largest military budget in the world. 3rd largest. You have other very wealthy and powerful countries sitting in that region. They have got to wage the fight for the soul of Islam. We should be supportive, along with other European countries, give them support. I support airstrikes, special missions. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to be the Muslim nations themselves who are leading the fight with our support.
You say you support airstrikes. What about the use of drones and the way they've been handled in the Obama administration?
Well,
Will you continue that?
Well, I don't think it's a yes or no. Clearly, it has been counterproductive when we kill innocent people, including Americans. But they are one tool that I think is in the arsenal. But clearly, in many instances, they have backfired on us.
So drone strikes would continue then if you were president?
In a very selective way.
Would the policy change? Would there be a different vetting process on how to get to that?
Look, we have had some success with drones. We have had a lot of failures with drones. I think we have to reanalyze what we're doing there.
Senator Sanders, you have been really the fighter out front and the leader when it comes to the conversation of income inequality in America. Wall Street, would you be in favor of reinstating or advocating for the reimplementation of Glass-Steagall? Was that the beginning of our problems, the breakup of the commercial and investment banks?
Well, Ed, if you want to go to YouTube, you can see a dialogue that I had when I was in the House with Alan Greenspan. And taking him on, he was talking about all of the wonderful benefits of the deregulation of Wall Street. And I told him he was dead wrong then, and he was. I was, as a member of the House, one of the leaders in opposition to this deregulation. I think it was a tragic mistake. But this is what I'll tell you. I would go further than just reinstating Glass-Steagall. I think what we have got to appreciate is when you have 6 financial institutions that have assets equivalent to about 60% of the GDP of America, you know what? Let's be honest. You can't regulate them.
You'd break up the banks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are if they're too big to fail, they are too big to exist. They are issuing 50% of the mortgages and 2/3 of the credit cards in this country. If Teddy Roosevelt were the president, what do you think he would do?
Well, he'd probably do that.
That's right.
Okay. Senator Sanders, stay with us. We've got more to come. Follow us on Facebook and watch my Facebook feature, Give Me a Minute. And, of course, you can get my video podcast at WeGotEd.com.